The interstellar council chamber was built to intimidate, its vaulted ceiling soared into shadow, lit only by pale beams of artificial starlight that poured down in angled shafts. Rings of alien delegates encircled the central platform, each species perched on thrones of alloy and stone, raised just high enough to peer down on the speaker's dais. The design was deliberate. Anyone standing in the center was meant to feel small. Ambassador Marcus Hale walked into that circle with his chin high and his stride measured, refusing to give him that satisfaction. His tailored dark suit, an anachronism in a room of alien robes and scaled armor, was a statement in itself. He carried no notes, no datapad, no entourage, only his presence. Whispers rippled through the crowd as he reached the podium. "Human," hissed one delegate, the sound carrying across the acoustically sharpened air. "Presumptuous to come alone," muttered another. "Or desperate." Marcus ignored them. His gaze swept across the tiers, cataloging expressions. The insectoid YYRN clicked mandibles in what passed for amusement. The avian trill leaned back, feathers rustling with mockery. Most of them had already decided the outcome before the session even began. And at the highest tier, towering over them all, sat King Zorth of the Orthan hegemony. His massive frame pressed against the carved obsidian seat, draped in regal crimson. Eyes like shards of molten glass burned down at Marcus. The chamber stilled at the king's gesture. "Humanity," Zorth began, his voice amplified to the hall, deep and resonant. "Your time of pretending is at an end." The word struck with the weight of a verdict, not an opening. You stand accused of insolence. Your colonies on a rim defy tribute. Your fleets expand beyond permitted limits. Your species multiplies without regard for order. For too long, this council has tolerated your experiments with independence. Today that tolerance ends. Murmurs of approval rippled through the tiers. Marcus rested his palms on the podium, the gesture casual, but his mind sharpened to a razor's edge. He had expected hostility. He had not expected such naked condemnation at the opening. This was not negotiation. It was theater. "And what," Marcus said evenly, his voice cutting across the chamber with practiced clarity, "does His Majesty the Orthan hegemony propose as remedy for these accusations?" The question was a formality, but he delivered it as if the answer mattered. Every syllable carried discipline. Zorth leaned forward, the light glinting off the ridges of his scaled brow. "Surrender." The word hung in the chamber like a drop blade. "You will cede your colonies, disband your fleets, and accept the permanent guardianship of the hegemony. In return, Earth itself will be spared annihilation. This is our generosity." Several delegates hissed or barked approval. Others simply stared, waiting to see how the human would break. Marcus's jaw tightened, but outwardly his expression did not change. He tapped the podium once, as if considering. "Spare annihilation," he repeated softly. "A benevolent offer indeed." His irony was deliberate. The trill delegate cackled in amusement. The YYRN clicked with irritation. Zorth's lips curled into what passed as a smile. "You misunderstand, little primate," the king rumbled. "There is no negotiation here, only acknowledgement. Your people stand at the threshold of extinction. Accept our terms, and you may crawl through that threshold alive." Marcus let silence stretch. In that silence, his mind worked furiously. He remembered the briefing aboard the diplomatic transport. Hegemony fleets had been detected moving into position along human borders. Communications were choked with half-truths and threats. Every sign pointed to premeditation. The council session was not an opportunity to argue. It was a stage for humiliation. Still, appearances mattered. "Your Majesty," Marcus said at last, "humanity acknowledges the gravity of this council. But extinction is a word we know well. We have stared into it before, through famine, through war, through fire from our own hands. We survived each time not by kneeling, but by standing. Surely the hegemony understands that resilience is not easily traded for chains." The statement drew a ripple of unease. Some delegates shifted, uncertain whether to laugh or scorn. Zorth's smile widened, revealing serrated teeth. "Defiance," the king said. "Predictable." He rose from his seat, towering above the chamber. Your history of savagery precedes you. You waged endless wars on yourselves until others dragged you into the stars. And now you dare to lecture us on survival. The chamber erupted in hisses and jeers. Marcus waited, motionless, until the noise subsided. "We dare," he said simply. The quiet confidence in those two words silenced the chamber more effectively than any gavel. For the first time, a flicker of irritation crossed Zortha's face. He descended the dais steps with ponderous authority, closing the distance to the central platform. His bulk filled Marcus's vision, a shadow blotting out the starlight beams. "Look around you, human," the king snarled low enough for only Marcus and nearby delegates to hear. "Every species here despises you. They tolerate your existence because we permit it. You're outnumbered, outmatched, out of place." Marcus met his molten gaze without flinching. Perhaps, but underestimation has always been humanity's most reliable shield. A dangerous gleam sparked in Zortha's eyes. That shield will break today. He turned back to the chamber and spread his clawed arms wide. "Let it be known, the human race has been weighed and found wanting. By decree of the Orhan hegemony, their independence is ended." Thunderous applause and screeches filled the air. The council chamber reverberated with triumph. Triumph not of justice, but of dominance. Marcus stood alone at the podium, a single figure against a tide of contempt. He breathed once, steadying himself, committing the spectacle to memory. He would need every detail later. Inside, his anger coiled, cold and deliberate. He had walked into a trap, and the jaws had closed exactly as expected. But traps cut both ways. When the applause finally died, Marcus inclined his head just enough to acknowledge the decree. His tone remained calm, his words precise. "Then let it also be known," he said, "that humanity hears the terms placed before it. We shall deliberate carefully, for decisions of such weight demand clarity. We will return with our answer." It was protocol, nothing more. Yet in his inflection lay the faintest trace of warning. Too faint for most to notice, but sharp enough to cut the attentive. Zortha's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. He had achieved what he wanted, the spectacle of dominance. The human's measured words would be dismissed as stalling. Marcus turned and walked from the chamber, the jeers of alien delegates following him like shadows. His stride remained steady, every movement controlled. To falter now would be to give them victo. That day, he realized, had arrived. The council's marble corridors were designed to inspire awe, but Marcus Hale moved through them with steady, unbroken steps. His shoes echoed faintly against the floor, the rhythm sharp and deliberate. Behind him trailed no aides, no guards, no sympathetic allies. Humanity had been given one seat at the galaxy's grand table, and he alone occupied it. That fact pressed heavier than the vaulted stone overhead. Outside the chamber, the pretense of ceremony slipped away. Two towering Orhan guards shadowed him down the hall, their polished weapons humming faintly, as though reminding him of his place. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence was a message. He was permitted to leave only because the king willed it. Marcus ignored them and let his thoughts sharpen. He had expected hostility, but not such a brazen show of contempt. A full decree of surrender, broadcast to every delegate, was not negotiation. It was humiliation staged for history. The hegemony wanted Earth's submission carved into memory as inevitable, irreversible. At the transport bay, the guards peeled away without a word. Marcus stepped inside the shuttle, reserved for diplomatic use. The hatch sealed, and the sudden silence felt almost unnatural. "Ambassador," his pilot greeted through comms. "We're clear to depart." "Take us out," Marcus said. His tone gave no hint of the storm beneath. The shuttle detached from the council spire and drifted into orbit. Beyond the viewport stretched Noric's prime skies. Violet clouds streaked across the upper atmosphere, the planet's surface glowing with city lights. Orbiting above were fleets from a dozen civilizations, each warship hanging like a silent predator. Among them, Orhan dreadnoughts dominated the void, their hulls jagged and crimson lit, projecting menace with every angled silhouette. Marcus's reflection stared back from the glass. Tired eyes, silvering hair, a diplomat's mask carefully maintained. Yet he could not suppress the thought. How many of those warships had been ordered to shadow Earth's colonies at this very moment? How many had already crossed into human space? He keyed the encrypted channel to his waiting staff aboard the embassy vessel. A dozen faces appeared in staggered frames, each tense. "Well," one asked quietly. Marcus studied them before answering. "It's no longer speculation. The hegemony has issued decree, unconditional surrender, colonies, fleets, sovereignty, everything under their guardianship." The roomful of officers and analysts erupted in low curses and incredulous mutters. Marcus lifted a hand, silencing them. "We knew this was coming," he continued. "But today it became official. The council cheered our subjugation. Do not fool yourselves. Most of them are content to see us broken. They expect us to kneel." A young attaché swallowed hard. "Do we have an answer for them?" Marcus's gaze hardened. "Not yet. And until we do, no one outside this channel learns of today's exchange. I will not let panic spread before it is necessary. Is that clear?" They nodded, subdued. "Good. Maintain readiness. Our fleets must remain alert, but silent. No provocation, no broadcasts. Let the galaxy think we are weighing their decree." His voice dipped lower. "Meanwhile, our preparations accelerate. Quietly." The screen dimmed, leaving Marcus alone once more. That evening, he stood in his private quarters aboard the embassy ship, staring at a small relic displayed on the wall, a shard of metal scorched black, mounted in glass. It came from the ruins of Hiroshima, passed through his family for generations. His grandfather had told him once, "Civilization is a costume. Strip it away, and survival wears the face of fire." For centuries, humans had learned to wear the costume well. They spoke of peace, order, treaties. Yet the record was written in blood. Wars waged until the earth itself trembled. Other species saw savagery, but Marcus saw something else. Proof that humanity had stared into extinction and clawed its way back. Again and again, he clenched his fist slowly. The hegemony thought it was forcing humanity to the brink. They had no idea what waited there. A chime broke his reverie. His aide, Commander Vela, stern, efficient, one of the few trusted to remain by his side, entered the room. "You should rest," she said without preamble. Marcus shook his head. "Rest can wait. How are the fleets?" Vela's eyes flickered. "Admiral Terran confirms all deployments remain concealed within jump corridors. They can strike within hours of receiving authorization. And the colonies? Defiant, nervous. Some governors whisper a surrender to spare their people." Marcus exhaled sharply. "They must hold. If even one bends, it will unravel everything." Vela hesitated, then asked a question unspoken by many. "Do you believe Earth is ready for what you're considering?" Marcus turned back to the shard of metal. "Readiness is a luxury. Survival is compulsion." She said nothing more, but her silence carried understanding. The following day brought another summons. Marcus returned to the council chamber, greeted again by the smothering architecture, the stares of predators watching prey. He walked the central path as though the previous day's decree had been forgotten. Zorth awaited him, lounging on his throne with calculated disdain. When Marcus stepped to the podium, the king leaned forward, claws tapping the armrest. "Have humans crawled to wisdom overnight?" Marcus met his gaze. "We are deliberating. Such decisions cannot be made in haste." The king barked a laugh, echoed by others in the tears. "Haste? Your extinction does not wait politely, little primate. Each day you stall, fleets encircle your worlds tighter." Another delegate, a serpentine Eswaran, slithered forward and sneered. "Why bother prolonging the inevitable? Spare your species humiliation. Bow now, and perhaps scraps of mercy will be thrown." Marcus allowed the insults to wash over him. His posture remained calm, his words measured. Mercy offered through chains is not mercy, but domination. Humanity will answer, but not today. A ripple of irritation spread through the chamber. The aliens wanted him rattled, shouting, begging. Instead, he gave them stillness. Zortha's smile hardened. Defiance is wasted theater. Every moment you stall deepens your people's suffering. Remember this when you crawl back, begging for terms. Marcus inclined his head just slightly. I will remember. The session ended without resolution. The delegates filed out, muttering contempt, but none received the satisfaction of seeing the human broken. Later, in the privacy of his quarters, Marcus replayed the day's words in his mind. Each insult, each dismissal, each hint of overconfidence. The council believed humanity isolated, predictable, contained. That belief was their weakness. He keyed a private channel to Admiral Tarrant, bypassing standard encryption. Admiral, Marcus said, voice low, the decree has been issued. They expect us to yield within days. The Admiral's scarred face appeared on the screen, grim but steady. And if we do not, Marcus's expression hardened, the diplomat's mask slipping just enough to reveal the predator beneath. Then we show them what happens when humanity stops pretending. The council chamber had grown colder, not in temperature, but in tone. Where the first session had been spectacle, and the second had been condescension, the third carried something sharper, expectation. The alien delegates leaned forward in their elevated seats, waiting for the human to bend. Marcus Hale entered as before, alone, composed, his suit immaculate despite sleepless nights. He mounted the central dais with a slow precision that gave no hint of fatigue. His pulse, steady as a metronome, belied the storm in his chest. The council's lights dimmed to focus on King Zorth, who rose with theatrical weight. His obsidian crown caught the beams as if swallowing light. Ambassador Hale, Zorth intoned, 3 cycles have passed since decree. No answer has been given. Does Earth seek destruction through silence? Marcus clasped his hands behind his back, posture erect. Earth seeks clarity. You demand surrender of fleets, colonies, and sovereignty. To comply would erase us as a people. Such decisions demand more than 3 cycles contemplation. Mocking laughter rippled from the tiers. A feathered trill delegate called down. Humans always demand more time, as a delay could conjure strength. A chittering insectoid clicked mandibles. Or perhaps they breed plans like they breed offspring. Reckless, endless. Marcus let the insult slide, but his voice cut cleanly when he replied. Do not mistake restraint for weakness. We weigh our choices with care, because their cost will be measured in lives. That silenced the jeering for a heartbeat. Zorth's lips curled, revealing rows of serrated teeth. Fine words from a species known for carnage. Your history reeks of self-destruction. You call it resilience. We call it chaos. The hegemony offers you order. Why resist the inevitable? Marcus's gaze locked with his. Calm, steady, but edged now with steel. Because inevitability is a story told by those who wish to rule. Humanity writes its own. The statement carried across the chamber with a gravity that unsettled even the more neutral delegates. A ripple of whispers followed, some mocking, some uneasy. Zord descended from his throne, claws scraping the steps, each movement deliberate. He stopped mere feet from Marcus, towering over him, the heat of his breath sharp with iron. You think words protect you? That posture and poise shield you from reality? I could crush you here, before this council, and your species would scatter like ash. The room tensed. Security drones hovered, ready, though none moved. The rules of the council forbade violence in the chamber. Yet everyone knew rules bent beneath the hegemony's will. Marcus did not flinch. His reply was quiet, but it carried. If you believe crushing one man will break a people, then you understand nothing of humanity. A dangerous murmur swept the chamber. The alien delegates exchanged looks, some amused, some intrigued, others wary. Zorth's molten gaze narrowed. You test my patience, human. Marcus allowed the faintest trace of smile. And patience, I suspect, is not your strongest trait. The chamber froze. It was subtle, but it was defiance, an insult delivered with a diplomat's precision, the kind that couldn't be ignored. The SYRN delegate hissed. Impudent primate. The YYRN clicked angrily. Break him, Majesty. End this farce. Zorth raised a clawed hand for silence. His grin returned, wider now, predatory. Perhaps words will not teach. Perhaps demonstration will. He moved suddenly, a blur for something so massive, in one motion. He gripped Marcus by the front of his suit and hauled him from the dais. Gasps filled the chamber. Security drones hesitated, protocols clashing with politics. Marcus dangled above the floor, but his eyes never left the king's. Calm, cold, a predator's stillness. See how fragile your envoy is. Zorth growled to the council. See how easily his dignity breaks. The delegates leaned forward, eager to witness humiliation. Marcus spoke, voice level, unshaken. You are mistaken, Majesty. What you hold is not fragility. It is restraint. The words, delivered with chilling calm, rippled like a blade unsheathed. The chamber stilled, uncertainty replacing mockery. Zorth tightened his grip, claws pricking fabric. Restraint. Marcus's eyes hardened, steel beneath ice. Yes, restraint. Do not confuse it with weakness. The difference is revealed only when restraint ends. The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Even the drones ceased their hum. For the first time, some delegates shifted uneasily. They had come expecting submission, or at least outrage. What they saw instead was something harder to categorize. A man facing a king's grasp without fear, speaking as if the threat were beneath him. Zorth studied him, smile thinning into something darker. He released his grip, letting Marcus drop back onto the dais. The human straightened his suit calmly, smoothed the fabric where claws had creased it, and resumed his stance as if nothing had occurred. The show of composure unsettled the chamber more than any outburst could have. Zorth turned back to the assembly. You see? The human hides behind words because he has nothing else. Their defiance is empty. But the king's voice carried less certainty than before, and the delegates sensed it. A predator that needed to prove dominance was one that felt it questioned. Marcus spoke, once more measured and precise. The council should remember, humanity has endured every manner of trial. Fire, famine, war, plague. We have been brought to the brink countless times, and each time we returned harder, sharper. If you force us there again, we will not break. We will burn, and what stands in our way will burn with us. The chamber erupted. Some laughed, some hissed, some shouted in outrage. But beneath the clamor, a thread of unease wound tighter. The words were not bluster. They were promise. Marcus stood unshaken in the storm of noise, gaze fixed forward. His voice had not risen, yet it cut deeper than shouts could. The mask of civility still covered him, but cracks had begun to show, glimpses of the raw steel beneath. The council ended the session abruptly, voices raised, protocol dissolving into chaos. Delegates filed out with whispers sharp as blades. Some mocked, but others glanced back at the lone human with narrowed eyes, calculating. Zorth lingered, staring down at Marcus with molten fire. You play a dangerous game, he said low, almost himself. Marcus met his gaze. Dangerous games are the only ones worth playing. The king's claws flexed, but he turned and strode from the chamber, his crimson cloak sweeping like spilled blood behind him. Marcus remained until the last echoes faded. Only then did he allow himself a slow breath, steadying the pulse that had quickened despite his mask. The game was no longer negotiation. It was brinkmanship, a contest of will against dominance. And for the first time, the cracks were no longer just in humanity's mask. He had glimpsed one in the king's. The chamber was filled to capacity. News of the escalating standoff had spread across the station, drawing every delegate, scribe, and observer into the vaulted hall. The atmosphere vibrated with anticipation. The Ordhan king had promised an end to the charade today, and the galaxy's eyes were hungry for spectacle. Marcus Hale walked into that arena with the calm of a man entering his office, not the lion's den. His suit was pressed, his shoes polished, every detail immaculate. He carried no visible weapon, no retinue, only himself. Whispers followed him, sharp and eager. This will be the day the human breaks. King Zorth was already standing, his massive figure radiating menace. Today he had abandoned regal stillness. His stance was aggressive, posture coiled as if savoring what was to come. When Marcus reached the dais, the king's voice thundered. Ambassador Hale, the time for deliberation has ended. The council demand your answer. Marcus looked up at him, unblinking, his hands folded neatly on the podium. "Then you shall have it." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the drones hovered still, their hums cut short. Delegates leaned forward. This was the moment. The breaking, the begging, the surrender. Marcus's voice was calm, precise. Earth will not surrender. Humanity will not kneel. The chamber erupted. Shouts, screeches, hisses, laughter, an uproar that rattled the carved ribs of the ceiling. The trill delegate cawed in mocking delight. The YYRN clicked furiously. Others spat curses in their native tongues. Only Zorth remained silent, though the corners of his mouth curled with dark amusement. When the noise subsided, the king descended the steps slowly, claws ringing against stone. He stopped before Marcus, towering, crimson cloak pooling around his feet. "You dare," he said softly, dangerously. Marcus's reply was steady. "I state what is majesty. We do not kneel." The king's hand lashed out, claws seizing Marcus by the throat. Gasps rippled through the tears, half shock, half excitement. The drones hesitated, their protocols caught between sacred neutrality and royal dominance. Zorth raised Marcus high, his voice booming. "You see, Council, the human refuses order, refuses mercy. This is what awaits them, obliteration by their own arrogance." The delegates howled approval. This was the spectacle they had come to witness. The proud envoy broken in the king's grasp. But Marcus did not struggle. His face remained composed, his gaze locked with the king's molten eyes. And then, in a tone so calm it sliced through the noise, he spoke. "You mistake survival for arrogance." The words cut like a blade. And in that instant, the mask dropped. Marcus moved, faster than thought. His hand slipped into the inner lining of his suit and drew a needle-thin weapon, an assassin's tool, disguised in plain sight, overlooked by every scanner. With one swift, practiced motion, he drove it upward into the seam of Zorth's jaw. The king's eyes widened in shock. The weapon hissed, discharging a focused burst of molecular destabilizer. Flesh, cartilage, and bone liquefied in a silent instant. Zorth staggered, claw loosening. A strangled roar tore from his throat, cut short as half his skull collapsed inward. He crumpled to the floor, the crimson cloak pooling now like spilled blood. The chamber froze. Every delegate, every guard, every drone, motionless. The silence was deafening. The galaxy's most feared monarch lay dead at a human's feet. Marcus stood over the body, weapon still in hand. His breathing was steady, his suit unmarred. Slowly, deliberately, he turned to face the stunned assembly. "Humanity," he said, voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "does not pretend any longer." The words rolled out like thunder. No one moved. Some delegates recoiled in horror, others in awe. The trill's feathers lay flat, stunned into silence. The YYRN's mandibles clicked nervously. No laughter now. Even the SYRN coiled tighter, unsure whether to strike or slither away. Marcus continued, his voice sharp, every syllable a blade. "For centuries, we have worn the costume of civility. We played your games, sat in your chambers, endured your jeers. But know this, our patience was never weakness. It was restraint. And restraint, once broken, does not return." The stillness was absolute. Marcus let the silence stretch, making them feel it, making them understand. Then he lowered the weapon, slipping it back into his suit as casually as one might pocket a pen. "Inform your fleets," he said evenly. "Humanity does not bow. Any hand raised against our worlds will be burned away. Choose carefully whether to test us." With that, he turned and walked from the dais. No guards moved to stop him. No delegate dared speak. He passed between drones frozen in mid-hover, their directives paralyzed by the impossibility of what had just occurred. The great doors opened before him with a hiss, and he strode into the corridor beyond without a backward glance. Only when he had gone did the chamber erupt. Screams, accusations, panic. Some called for war, others for retreat. The king's body lay cooling on the stone, and with it the illusion of unshakable Ordhan dominance. Marcus walked the sterile halls with unhurried steps. His pulse remained steady. though beneath its surge of fire he had carried all his life. Not rage, not triumph, but something colder. Inevitability. He reached the embassy's shuttle, where Commander Vela waited, her expression taut but unwavering. "It's done," Marcus said simply. She studied him. "The Council will never forgive this." "They were never going to," Marcus replied. "Now they'll fear instead." The shuttle's hatch closed. Engines hummed, lifting them toward orbit. Through the viewport, the massive silhouettes of Ordhan dreadnoughts hung like predators in the dark. Marcus's gaze hardened. "Signal Admiral Tarrant," he ordered. "Execute contingency." The mask is gone. Humanity moves as itself now. Vela keyed the command without hesitation. And as the shuttle broke atmosphere, Marcus allowed himself a final glance back at the Council spire, still gleaming against Norix Prime's violet sky. A monument to order, to control, to civilization. He almost smiled. It had taken one act, one strike, to shatter it. Panic spread through the Council spire like fire through dry brush. What began as a stunned silence after King Zortha's fall quickly unraveled into chaos. Delegates screaming for evacuation, aides scrambling, guards torn between protocol and instinct. The drones programmed for neutrality hovered uselessly, their lenses whirring as they attempted to catalog the impossible. A human had executed the most feared monarch in the galaxy and walked away unchallenged. Across the station's vast communication rays, the broadcast spread in real time. Billions of eyes and ears, scattered across systems light years apart, witnessed the event. To colonies living under Ordhan's shadow, the image of Zor collapsing at a human's hand was a sunrise. To their vassals, it was a nightmare of order broken. Marcus Hale did not linger to watch. The shuttle carried him into orbit, past the skeletal docks where warships floated in readiness. Commander Vela sat across from him, helmet in her lap, gaze fixed. "They'll call this assassination," she said. "It was execution," Marcus replied evenly. "Semantics won't matter. What matters is the message." Vela studied him for a moment. "You realize what you've done, don't you?" "I've reminded them what we are," he said, his tone like steel cooling after the forge. The transmission had reached Earth long before the shuttle docked with the embassy cruiser Vigilant. In the War Council chamber beneath Geneva, a dozen admirals and ministers sat in silence as the replay ended on a holographic display. Marcus, standing over Zortha's body, declaring humanity no longer bowed. The stillness in the room was broken by Admiral Tarrant's gravelly voice. He lit the fuse. Minister Quan leaned forward, hands clasped tightly. "Lit it, or ended it. The Ordhans won't rally without their king. They built their empire on his shadow. Without it, what are they?" Tarrant's lips curved into something almost like a smile. "Pray." The council exchanged glances. There was no debate now, no hesitation. The mask humanity had worn, measured diplomacy, endless patience, had shattered. The galaxy had been shown a truth it could never unsee. On the Vigilance command deck, Marcus entered as the ship adjusted orbit. Through the viewport, the Ordhan fleet loomed. 30 dreadnoughts, weapons hot, waiting for orders that would never come. Their king lay cold on Norix Prime. Captain Saran saluted. Ambassador, or perhaps I should say executioner. Marcus ignored the jab. Status: no hostile movements yet. They're paralyzed. Good, Marcus said. Let them stay that way. He moved to the central display, where fleet positions lit the holographic sphere. Red icons marked Ordhan warships. Blue marked the scattered human detachments waiting on the edge of the system. One word pulsed in the command queue: contingency. Marcus keyed the transmission channel. His face appeared across human fleets spread across dozens of sectors. This is Marcus Hale. The king is dead. The mask is gone. Operate as yourselves. No explanation, no lengthy orders. Humanity's commanders didn't need them. Across the void, human fleets shifted from cautious stances to predatory formations, their restraint uncoiled at last. In the council chamber on Norix Prime, disorder had reached frenzy. Delegates shouted across the tiers, some demanding immediate war against humanity, others calling for retreat to their own territories. Without Zortha's presence, the chamber was revealed for what it truly was. A pit of jackals once bound by fear of a lion. The shrill delegate hissed at her neighbors. Do you not see? If the humans can slay him, they can slay any of us. We must scatter, fortify our worlds. The YYRN pounded the floor with armored limbs. Scatter, and we will be devoured one by one. Stand, and perhaps we tear them down together. But no unity emerged. Already, envoys slipped away, summoning fleets home. The Ordhan Empire, once a monolith, fractured in minutes. High above, drones broadcast a pandemonium to every corner of the galaxy. To billions who had lived under the king's threat, the sight was liberation. To others, terror. On the Vigilant, Commander Vela approached Marcus at the viewport. Outside, Ordhan dreadnoughts still hung silent, their captains awaiting orders from a dead monarch. They're not moving, she said quietly. They're leaderless, Marcus replied. And leaders are not born in an instant. They'll tear themselves apart deciding who commands. Vela studied him. So what now? Do we strike? Marcus turned from the viewport, his expression hard, measured. No, we wait. Let them witness their empire collapse from within. Humanity doesn't need to fire a shot. We've already won. She hesitated. And the others? The council worlds? They'll learn the truth one way or another, Marcus said. Fear is a language we all understand. Weeks passed. Reports filtered in, Ordhan governors declaring independence. Fleets defecting, vassal species revolting. Skirmishes erupted between factions scrambling to seize power. What had seemed unshakable dissolved into civil war. Human ships moved carefully, never overreaching. They didn't conquer. They observed, they defended. They reminded the galaxy of the act no one could forget. A human standing calm while an empire's king collapsed at his feet. On world that had once scoffed at Earth, whispers spread. The humans had teeth. The humans would not kneel. The humans had killed the unkillable. And for the first time in living memory, fear flowed not toward Earth, but away from it. Marcus returned to Earth months later. Geneva greeted him not with parades, but with silence. The chamber was full, the war council seated. He stepped into the center, hands folded behind his back. Minister Quan spoke first. You've changed the galaxy forever. Marcus inclined his head slightly. The galaxy needed reminding that we endure. That reminder was overdue. Admiral Tarrant leaned forward, gravel still in his voice. History will remember you as either the man who saved us or the man who damned us. Marcus's gaze was steady. History is written by survivors, Admiral, and I intend humanity to be the ones holding the pen. Silence fell again, but it was not the silence of doubt. It was the silence of acknowledgement. The mask was gone, and there would be no putting it back on. Far beyond Earth, in broken systems where Ordhan banners once flew, people told the story differently. They told of a human diplomat who walked into the jaws of the galaxy's strongest beast, looked in the eye, and cut its throat without flinching. Some whispered it as a warning, others as a prayer, but however they told it, the meaning was the same. The day humanity quit pretending to be civilized was the day the galaxy remembered what it meant to fear.